Welcome back. Joining us live this morning is Tampa Mayor Bob Buckhorn. Good to have you here, as always.
Good to be here. Good morning.
All right. Good morning. And we're going to start off with the city holding some big events the last couple of weeks, the National Championship, Gasparilla, everything seeming to go off without a hitch. How's that happening?
Well, we've done it a lot. I mean, we do those big events as well as anybody in the country, and I think that National College Football Championship showcased Tampa in ways that we had never even imagined before. I mean, Tampa never looked better. Riverwalk was finished. It was packed. The projection of Flo Rida and Usher up on the Sykes building was really spectacular. And I think the nation saw a city that's on the verge of something really, really special.
And the RNC really gave you some good experience
It did. It did. You know, that preparation for the RNC and that playbook that we developed, that's now a model for how to host those big events. And we basically plug and play. I mean, we take that template and we go execute every time.
Let's go ahead and move on to our attention to the president. We know you're a big Hillary Clinton supporter. We were with you on the campaign trail last year. I believe we have some video here as you were stumping for her in New Hampshire. And I guess the question to you is, there you are. It's cold up there at the time, huh? What do you think would have happened? What would be different now if Clinton had actually become president?
Well, I think certainly we would be in a lot more stable situation. I think the transition from one president to another would have been a lot smoother. I think we would have seen people who were better prepared in a vetting process that actually worked. I don't think there would be a new phenomenon called alternative facts. And I think this country would be in much better shape. Now, all of that being said, she didn't win. And Donald Trump is our president. And we want him to be successful. But I can tell you that watching what goes on every day, and it doesn't get any better. I saw those comments that you had on about Pocahontas and Senator Warren. I mean, that is so unbecoming of the office of the presidency and the president himself that I'm hopeful he will learn the magnitude of the job he has just assumed. But I'm not particularly optimistic, Paul.
Let's talk about the travel ban. President Trump says it's a terror ban. Others call it an anti-Muslim ban. In fact, you recently met, I know, with some people from the Islamic Society of Tampa Bay, telling Muslims that you would stand with them forever. Let's go ahead and take a listen to that right now.
What the president has done, I think, flies in the values, in the face of the values of who we are as Americans and what this mosaic that we call America represents.
So the question is, why is it so important for you to be so vocal about this?
Well, I'm the mayor of all people, and some of whom happen to be our Muslim friends and neighbors. And for me, to not use the pulpit that I've been given and to speak out in the face of what I think is inherently wrong and inherently un-American, shame on me. And so I did. Even if it's just with Tampa, and I'm not putting Tampa down, even if it's just with Tampa, you believe that you have to use your voice. Absolutely, I do. I mean, we're in the biggest media market in the state of Florida. The mayor of Tampa is the preeminent politician. When a mayor speaks, it carries weight. And when that situation you just saw, there were grown men who came up to me crying, who had been in this country, who were legally in this country, who were not terrorists. They were good, hardworking Americans, but they were so fearful of what was going on in this country that they were being persecuted and prosecuted for being Muslim.
And you're putting your voice in there because you don't want them to be in that situation. Is that what you're saying?
I want them to know that this city has their back, and that I have their back, that what occurred I thought was un-American and literally flies in the values, in the face of the values of our country. We're all immigrants, Paul. Unless we were Native American, we all came from somewhere else. What the president did, I think, was wrong, and I think the court stood up and said it was wrong.
And we caught up with you at Gasparilla, and you had a few words aimed at President Trump. Why don't you go ahead and take a listen to that?
Well, I've learned in the Trump era that big matters and size matters. And there are like 10 million people here today. I don't care what CNN says. I don't care what President Obama says. That's all fake news. There are like tens of millions of people here today.
Obviously, you're not afraid to say what's on your mind. Do you ever regret, Mayor, saying anything like that?
No, I'm usually pretty careful about what I say.
Was that being careful?
I think it was. It was being humorous. Unfortunately, what we're seeing in Washington, D.C. Is not humorous. I mean, this is a tough world we live in. We face serious challenges.
So is the president making it tougher? Is that what you're saying?
I think he is. I think some of his statements, some of his reaction to our foreign allies. I mean, why pick a fight with Australia? I mean, that's ridiculous. And so for me, trying to use humor to make a point oftentimes is better than demagoguery. But I think this country, we're in a tenuous position, and we need a serious president.
So you're being very vocal about this, and not long after that, the president came here to McDill to be briefed by top military officials. We have video of that. And you weren't invited. So I'm wondering, do you feel snubbed by the president? You said you would probably go, I believe, if you were invited, but you were not invited after all. Were you snubbed?
No, I don't think so. And that's fine. It was on MacDill Air Force Base. It wasn't open to the public. I mean, Governor Scott was there. Congressman Ross was there. He didn't need to invite me. That was fine. So I don't feel snubbed at all. That
wasn't anything political, you don't believe?
You know, it may have been, but that's okay. That's his prerogative. Certainly I was there every time President Obama came. But that's okay. I don't mind that. What I do mind is when he used that speech to the troops to talk about who endorsed him and who didn't, and the ramifications that those who didn't endorse him would pay. That's totally inappropriate. Stop relitigating the election. You won, Mr. President. Let's get on with the serious business of running the country.
Real quick, we're almost out of time. One last question. A lot of people have talked about it, and I think you're going to know what I'm going to ask you. Are you going to be running for governor in 2018?
I don't know, Paul.
Right here, right now. Tell us.
That is the answer. I don't know. We're giving it some thought. We're looking at it. Tampa would have a heck of a story to tell, more so than any other candidate in this race. But it's a massive undertaking, and it would be hugely disruptive for my family. Truth be told, if I don't want to be the governor as bad as I want to be the mayor, then I'm not doing it.
There we go. Mayor Bob Buckhorn, thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.